Gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air on a Thursday here in the Quad Cities, Thursday, February 27th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. A lot to get to on today's show. We want to thank everyone who's watched this week. Watching today, you can be watching live on YouTube right now, also live on X as well. X has been very, very good to us. We started simulcasting or going live on X the beginning of last week, and it's been very, very good to us. Hoping that probably next week we'll be also simulcasting live on Facebook as well, and we're also on YouTube. So don't forget about us on YouTube. If you're watching us on X and you have a YouTube account, go subscribe on that as well. It helps us out a ton. We are inching our way closer to 700 subscribers. I think it was at 692 this morning. Got to get to 700 by the end of this week. So a couple more days to do that as well. But wherever you're watching us, however you're watching us, we appreciate that you're doing it. Of course, we are up on every podcasting platform as well. So Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. We're up, we're on it, all those kind of things. If there's a podcasting platform that you cannot find Off the Air with Matt Randazo, let me know. We'll make sure we get on that as well. But having a lot of fun growing this show we do each and every day here in the Quad Cities from 10 to around noonish every single day with a lot to get to. It's a fun time of year. So we want to thank everybody who has watched, who's watching right now. And of course, tell a friend or two as well. See if we can continue to grow a pretty fun show right here in the Quad Cities. A lot to get to on today's show. The Iowa women successful yesterday on the road as well. Last night, they go to Michigan and get another impressive victory. So take away two tough losses to USC or UCLA, excuse me, and also to Ohio State, two nationally ranked powerhouses. The Iowa basketball team has been very good for the last month. Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report will be along in just a matter of moments to talk about the Iowa ladies as they get ready for the Big Ten tournament. They got one more home game against Wisconsin, then it's the Big Ten tournament, and then they're heading back to the NCAA tournament once again. Also coming up on today's show, baseball season is right around the corner as well. That's exciting. I can't wait for that to begin. And we're going to catch up with my good friend, former Rockridge standout, former Iowa baseball standout, and former professional baseball player as well. Right now, Tyson Blaser is the catching coordinator for the Boston Red Sox organization. We got Tyson coming up in a little bit as well to talk baseball, to talk about the ABS system, to talk about the Quad Cities and baseball here in the Quad Cities. A lot to get to with Tyson Blaser coming up in just a little bit as well. And of course, on the high school hardwood, 4 teams from our area have already punched their ticket for the ladies girls state basketball tournament next week in Des Moines. Pleasant Valley did it, of course, yesterday. Jen Getz was on the show talking about the Pleasant Valley Spartans. Also, it is Davenport North going, Central DeWitt, and Maquoketa is going for the first time in school history. Coming up in the second hour of the show, their head coach, Chad Specht, will be along to talk about history at Maquoketa and why his young group of young ladies have a good chance next week and in the future as well. We'll get caught up with Chad Specht coming up in just a little bit. So as you know, and of course, if you missed any of the shows this week, Monday was Pat Angerer, Jordan Delp, some Bettendorf State wrestlers that won state championships. Tuesday, Tom and Ked got us set for Iowa versus Illinois. That was one of our most watched shows in recent weeks as well. And of course, Ty Taylor getting us set for some high school basketball this week. Yesterday, a good show as well. Jim Madsen, Tom Johnson chatted with us as well. And as I mentioned, Pleasant Valley head coach Jen Getz on the show yesterday as well. It's a busy time for basketball, both sides of the river, both college and in high school. Last night, a busy night for the boys in Illinois, regional action, and a lot of good teams and 2 good matchups at Wharton Fieldhouse. In the first game, it was Rock Island knocking off Pekin. They won impressively 72-46. So the Rocks continue to roll. They'll play for a regional championship at Wharton Fieldhouse on Friday night against the host team, Moline. Moline getting some revenge against United Township. They knocked off the Panthers 57-41. Of course, UT beat them last Tuesday in a Western Big Six game. So coming up on Friday night, it is Rock Island versus Moline at the Old Brick House with a regional championship on the line. We'll preview that big game and many more coming up tomorrow right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazo, but that should be a big one as well. Also, in the Western Big Six, the Sterling boys got a victory last night as well. Congratulations to Coach Vasquez and company. And the Sterling girls will play for a sectional championship tonight as well. We wish the Golden Warriors the best of luck. We had Coach Taylor Jackson on the show last week after they won a Western Big Six championship. A fantastic program, a fantastic group of young ladies. We wish them the best. Some smaller school action last night. Rockridge goes down to Macomb. They get a victory in their opener. They cruise to an easy victory. They'll now get Macomb, the host school, for a regional championship on Friday night. Of course, it was Macomb that ended Rockridge's season last year in the sectional championship is what I want to think. I'm almost positive it was the sectional championship. So Rockridge with a chance at a little revenge. Always a tough place to go play. It'll be a dogfight on Friday night between Macomb and Rockridge. And then a little closer to home at the Mercer County Regional, it was Orion edging Mercer County. So the Chargers get the victory by 1 point. They're playing a little shorthanded. Their best player, their best scorer, Kyler Owens, out right now with a foot injury. So he was not with them last night, but Orion does survive. They'll take on Sherrard. The Tigers win once again. So the Tigers will go for a regional championship on Friday night. They also got 28 victories. Number 29 could happen on Friday night. That would be a school record. It's already a school record. So a good matchup. Rivals Orion and Sherrard doing battle on Friday night as well. Other local teams winning. There was a bunch of them. Riverdale won. Newman won. So a lot of good matchups as the postseason continues on the Illinois side of the river as well. And again, once again, good luck to Sterling tonight. See if the Sterling girls can pick up a sectional championship as well. College basketball last night. We'll talk about Iowa a bunch here in just a second, but I'm sitting up here working as I always do at night, trying to get ready for a show. And I got the Michigan State Maryland game on one of the TVs over by my desk. And I turn and I watch the end of the game. It's tied up. Maryland and Michigan State. Will kind of show you what happened here if I can get my fancy system to work here. Yeah, you can see right here, Maryland a chance to win it late. Their shot's no good. Michigan State snags it, chucks it from basically a logo 3 from the opposite side of the court. They nail it. Michigan State goes on to beat Maryland, and you can see the Terps are absolutely shocked. That gets me excited. One, it's a great finish, but two, March is literally less than 48 hours away. What a great month it's going to be. That kind of stuff we're going to see in conference tournaments. We're going to see that in the NCAA tournament as well. So Sparty going on the road, getting a big victory, 2 really good teams in the Big Ten. But those type of buzzer beaters get you fired up and excited as we get ready for what should be a fun month of March, college basketball-wise and high school basketball-wise as well. Cannot wait. It should be a bunch of fun. But we start this morning with the Iowa women's basketball team, and they've been very interesting, especially the last couple weeks, playing some great basketball. Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report joins me now to talk about the Lady Hawkeyes because they go on the road to Michigan last night. And Kyle, I thought they put together, despite maybe a little lull in the third quarter, one of their best efforts of the season. They go to Michigan and win by double figures. A win you have to be impressed by.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting game just because there were 2 ways that it could have gone, right? The way the 2 games prior had gone, they go to Columbus and they go to the wire with Ohio State, and then they come home and they go to the wire with UCLA, 2 top 10 teams, and they don't get it done in either of them. It felt like coming to this game could be a letdown in terms of, maybe they got so close the last 2 games that maybe on the road ends up being a letdown spot, or they come in with an extra level of intensity, trying to kind of maybe right a wrong where they feel like they could have gotten a win in one of those last 2 games. But it was the secondary part. They came out with a lot of intensity right from the opening tip, hit a lot of shots in the first half, made 9 threes in the first half. And as you said, they let Michigan back into it a little bit. Iowa had a little bit of a lull offensively and on the defensive end as well, but some of that was Michigan wasn't just going to lay down and let Iowa win by 30 on their home floor. We saw Iowa put together a valiant comeback on their home floor against Maryland earlier in the year when they were down big at halftime. So it wasn't surprising that Michigan made a little bit of a comeback, but credit to Iowa for putting it away in the fourth quarter, went on a little bit of a run early in the fourth quarter to put it away. But yeah, an impressive win. Michigan's a really good basketball team, going to be a dangerous team in March, whether it's the Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament. They've got some great, really young players. But yeah, all around an impressive win from Iowa, and a spot where they needed it because they're still trying to fight for some NCAA tournament seeding, and this was a big resume win on the road.
Absolutely. And I think they were in regardless, but this one officially puts them in for sure. They'll pick up victory 20, or they should, knock on wood, pick up victory 20 when they play Wisconsin to wrap up the season. But to go on the road and do it on the road against a team like that and to get the efforts that they got, when you look at what Sydney Affolter did last night, and her line was so efficient. And she's been a different player. They moved her to the 4, and she's been more of a rebounder, more of a piece inside. But she goes 9 of 12 from the field, I think 4 of 4 from 3, scores 24 points, I think grabbed 11 rebounds. In my opinion, it's the best effort of her career, best game of her career. I know she was really good last year, especially during the Big Ten tournament. But your thoughts on not what just she done last night, but what she's done recently. It's been really, really good for her to step up and play the way she has towards the end of her senior season.
Yeah, I think some of the struggle early in the year. She got knee surgery, got some things cleaned up, which Chad Leistiko did a really good article on her. That injury was a lot worse than her and the coaching staff let people believe. She had to have some pretty serious stuff cleaned up in her knee. So I was recovering from some of that early in the year. And she was also one that came out and said that she was probably affected the most by Caitlin Clark's departure, just trying to figure out how to create her own looks in the offense and how to get her points in the offense with Caitlin not there, being able to get her open looks because Caitlin did a great job of finding Sydney Affolter in transition in transition for layups or transition for threes. And once she kind of got through the fullback to 100% from the knee surgery, and then kind of figured out how to play her game without Caitlin Clark. You've seen a complete change in her game. 6 double-doubles since the first of the year. Obviously last night with 24 and 11, that was her 6th one. But yeah, I haven't seen her play. I've seen her play really good basketball, especially in the postseason last year. Was a huge contributor in the Big Ten tournament and in the NCAA tournament. But the scoring that she gave in the first half of that game she tied a career high for points in the first half with 18. Was 4-4 from 3-point range. I haven't seen her score like that in her entire Iowa career. It was really impressive to see her hit the open threes and then attack the basket, score in the paint with layups, and then what she does defensively and the way she's able to rebound. I believe she had 1 rebound at half and finished with 11. So that just tells you what she can do as quickly as she can on the glass. But yeah, just an incredible performance for her. In the second half of the season, she's been fantastic, and that's the type of Sydney Affolter that they need in postseason play. Because when you can have her as someone that can score in double figures and also help clear the glass and grab some offensive rebounds, she's a vital piece for this team, and she's also a really good defender, which is something you need in postseason play.
No, absolutely. And you look at somebody like that, and she was Superman last night to maybe Lucy being Batman. Usually maybe it's the other way around, but Lucy Olsen, a really good game. I think the two of them combined knocked down 8 of 10 threes. When those two young ladies are shooting 80% from 3, you're going to win a lot of basketball games, especially on the road in the Big Ten. But Lucy played well. She played well against UCLA, didn't shoot it well against UCLA. I think welcoming and nice to see her have kind of a bounce back game against a good opponent on the road. Talk about Lucy, what you saw from her, and she was back to being really good. I know she got cooking, I think in the second quarter a little bit, where she was starting to rock and roll, but when she gets cooking and playing the way she does, this basketball team can be really, really good.
Yeah, and we talked last time I was on here. We talked about what Lucy has done kind of since that USC game. I think is where it really clicked that second half when she put up 23, and her and Addie O'Grady kind of willed Iowa to a victory in that game. That's kind of when things turned for Lucy Olson. But yeah, it was funny. The first quarter, Siddefolter's hitting. She hit 3 threes in the first quarter. Lucy didn't even take a shot in the first quarter, and she didn't need to because Siddefolter was doing everything on the offensive end. Taylor McCabe hit a 3 in the first quarter. And then it was just kind of like this handing off of the baton, like it was track and field or something. All of a sudden, Lucy Olson's hitting shots like crazy in the second quarter. They went into the half. Those two were combined for 34 points and were 8 of 8 from 3. Lucy hit 4 threes in the second quarter. So yeah, she was impressive in the second quarter when Siddefolter only put up 4 points there. And those two were the big reason why Iowa was able to build that 49-32 lead at halftime. But yeah, Lucy's been a different player. The really more the second half of the season. She was pretty good early in the year, but the beginning of Big Ten play struggled a little bit. But has really gotten confident, and part of it is her 3-point shot. Something that she wasn't great at Villanova last year as a sophomore. Shot at about 35%. I don't have the numbers up for how she shot it lately, but I think she's kind of similar to that over the last stretch of games where she's shooting right around that 35 to 40%. And that really opens up her game because when she is hitting from 3, defenders have to come out fully on her, and she's good enough where she can drive to the basket, but she's also so good in the mid-range that when she's hitting from 3-point range, she can be a legit 3-level scorer. And that really is when she's a dangerous player. And you've seen more of that here the second half of the season as she's gotten that 3-point shot going. And boy, did she have it going in that second quarter last night.
Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report joining us right now on OTA. Kyle, I think maybe the Iowa basketball team that we're seeing now is maybe what fans thought they were going to get for the entire season, and it just kind of took a while to come together. But when you look at Lucy and then you add what Sydney's been doing, and then Hannah Stokely is going to be Hannah Stokely the majority of the time, those are 3 really good players that you come in with night in and night out, and then throw in Taylor McCabe from the outside and Guyton off the bench, and you're starting to have a really good basketball team playing its best at the right time of the year. Is that a safe assumption that it took a little while to get to where we thought this team was going to be, but this, I think, is what coaches and maybe fans expected to see, hopefully sooner, but now we're getting it at the right time of the year?
Yeah, and I think, and I might have been part of it too, just thinking that this team was going to gel a little bit quicker than it did. I think you're right that this is the way that people thought, and I thought this team could be this year. And they're still trying to get Hannah Stokely back to the version she was, kind of at the tail end of Iowa's losing streak. She was playing really well, although Iowa wasn't winning games. And, she got that concussion against Nebraska. And since then, she's been just a little off. So I think the big thing will be trying to get her back to that level that she was, against Nebraska when she went 16 points, 16 rebounds. Or Illinois, I think she had 18 points and 13 rebounds. That type of play, if they can get her back to that level with what Lucy Olson's doing, with what Siddefolter's doing, with what Taylor McCabe can do as a 3-point shooter. She had 2 threes against Michigan. Then you mentioned the freshmen and what they can do in short stints. And you also have Addie O'Grady at center. This is a really dangerous team when they're fully going on all cylinders. And even last night, they beat Michigan handily 79-66. And Hannah Stokely, 13 points on 4 of 9 shooting, was battling the flu, Jan Jensen said. So they aren't even at 100% of what they can be. So that's how dangerous they can be. And they aren't far off. Even some of those losses you look at early in the year, they weren't far off. I mean, they've had chances. Michigan State, they missed a game-winning shot. Lucy Olson missed a shot at the buzzer. Nebraska, they had a layup by Aaliyah Guyton at the buzzer go off the rim. Oregon, Addie O'Grady misses a mid-range shot that she's been hitting super well at a super high frequency as of late. They could have had 3 buzzer beater wins if a bounce goes their way. You talk about a game at Illinois they could have won as well if they didn't miss a bunch of free throws down the stretch. They're really close. Their record right now sitting at 19 and what are they 19-9? They could be 23-5 right now and be knocking on the door of hosting for the NCAA tournament. So some of those close losses, they weren't far off, and now that they're at that level of the way they're playing right now, if they can keep it going into the NCAA tournament, man, I mean, if they're a 6 or a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament and they're playing like the level of a 4 or a 5 seed, I mean, if you're a 3 or a 4 seed or a 3 or a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, you don't want to see Iowa right now at the level they're playing, because they're playing right now. The level that they're playing at is 2 or 3 seed lines higher than what they're going to end up being in the NCAA tournament.
No, absolutely. And I know coaches don't want to overlook anybody. You're a beat writer. You get to do it, and I'm a goofy guy who started my own show in my loft, so I can do whatever I want. But we're gonna go ahead and give them a W against Wisconsin. So when you look at those things, people I think are kind of wondering where could they sit in the Big Ten tournament, and then where could they sit in the NCAA tournament? And obviously, a lot with that might have to do with what happens in Indiana and Indianapolis. But let's start with the first one, and let's start with the Big Ten tournament. Iowa takes care of business against Wisconsin. Are they still looking at a 10 seed? And how might things look for Iowa in a really good conference? You look at a team like Iowa. We just mentioned how well they're playing. They could be the 10 seed in the Big Ten tournament, which is crazy because they're talent-wise, they're playing right now. They're probably playing like a top 3 or 4 team in the entire league.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The conference has played out almost the exact way that I thought it would, where there was going to be the top teams, your UCLA, your USC, your Ohio State, and even Maryland to an extent. And then I just thought the middle of the conference was just going to be packed in there with teams with similar records. And I said coming into the year that I thought Iowa was potentially going to be near the top of that group and push for a top 4 finish. But some of those close losses that I just mentioned, they didn't go Iowa's way. So Iowa's sitting there at the bottom half of that big pack of teams. And the way the situation is right now, even if Iowa beats Wisconsin, like you said, they could be the 10 seed. Just because if there are a bunch of tiebreakers, Iowa doesn't win out on many of them because of some of those close losses to an Oregon who's in that middle of the pack, Illinois who's in the middle of the pack, Nebraska who they split with. Some of those close losses could come back to bite them in terms of where they stand in the Big Ten tournament. But for Iowa sitting there trying to get from projected a 7-8 seed right now, trying to get all the way up to that 6 seed in the NCAA tournament, does it hurt? Does it hurt to play that first round game against a Penn State or whoever it may be and just throw another win on the record, assuming that they were able to do it? Again, as you said, we get to kind of look past teams and the actual team doesn't. But I think they would beat a Penn State pretty handily. And does a random win over a quad 3 win over Penn State help? I mean, not a ton. But if they go 2-1 at the Big Ten tournament with a win over a Michigan State, who is a chance to be a 7 seed that Iowa could play, or an Illinois has a chance to be a 7 seed, even Michigan has a chance to be a 7 seed. Those would all be quad 1 wins. So what do you want? Do you want to sneak into that first day? You get out of the first day and you play the second day, and then maybe you go 1-1 with a loss to UCLA, or do you go 2-1 with a loss to USC? You're going to get a quad 1 win in there. Does a quad 3 win help you a little bit more? I would say that 2-1's better than 1-1. Jan Jensen would probably say she'd rather get the extra day of rest, but in terms of the scenarios, Iowa needs Indiana to either beat Maryland or lose to Purdue for Iowa to have a chance to get that single bye. I think Indiana could beat Maryland. I don't see them beating Maryland, and I definitely do not see Purdue beating Indiana. So I think Iowa's going to be that 10 seed on the first day, which right now looks like it would be Penn State as that first team to play.
NCAA tournament wise, are they an 8 seed, a 9 seed right now? And what do they have to do to get out of that and maybe get to a 7 seed and maybe face a 2 seed instead of having to face one of those 1 seeds moving forward? What does the NCAA tournament look like right now?
Yeah, I think they were about an 8 or a 9 seed before the Ohio State and UCLA game, and I think those actually helped them a little bit. Looking at, obviously I don't talk with the selection committee or anything, so I don't know what their thought process is, but ESPN does a good job. Charlie Cream does a good job of giving out projections on what he thinks the selection committee is going to do. And I was up to a 7 seed in his right now. I would think right now if the season ended today, they'd be right on that line of a 7 and 8 seed. I would say a 7 right now because of the win over Michigan last night. But Wisconsin, if you beat Wisconsin, you beat Penn State, you would then get to the postseason, get to Selection Sunday without a single bad loss. You would not have a quad 3 loss. You wouldn't have a quad 4 loss, which is good. That's a good check mark to have. But I do think getting the quad 1 win over Michigan and potentially getting a second one, whether it is, again, I don't know how the scenario is going to play out. It could be Michigan State, could be Illinois, could be Michigan as that 7 seed. You get a quad 1 win there. You go 22-10. We're assuming that they would lose to a UCLA or USC in the quarterfinals. 22-10 is going to be right there for a 6 seed, I would think. Michigan was a projected 6 seed coming into today, and Iowa just beat them. So maybe if Michigan loses in their first game at the Big Ten tournament, maybe that's the team that drops down. So I think Iowa's certainly in the hunt for a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. From today, they need to beat Wisconsin. They need to beat Penn State if that's who it is, and get that quad one win in the second round of the Big Ten tournament. And if they do that, they've got a shot. And I do think the difference between a 7 and a 6 seed is huge.
Yeah.
Obviously, Iowa is capable of hanging with any team in the country, maybe outside of like a South Carolina. I don't know that many teams can hang with them. But I think Iowa can hang with the 2 seeds. But I do think if they get up to that 6 seed and face a 3 seed in the second round, I think there's a wider variety of teams that you look at that 3 seed and you say, I do think Iowa could pull that upset. You look at the 2 seeds like a UConn or an NC State right now. Those are 2 teams that I would say that Iowa could hang with. I would not pick them to win those. But you look at the 3 seeds and you say, hey, TCU's in there, Kentucky's in there. There's a couple other teams that you say, I think Iowa could hang in that and potentially win that type of game. So for me, I think the difference between a 7 and a 6 seed is pretty large. We talk about how dangerous Iowa is right now and not wanting to see them in the NCAA tournament. If you're a 2 seed, you don't want to see Iowa, but if you're a 3 seed, you really do not want to see Iowa, because I think like I just said, Iowa's playing a couple seed lines high, quality wise. They're playing a couple seed lines higher than they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. So if you're a 3 seed right now, you're hoping that someone can beat Iowa and keep them out of that 6 seed.
It's funny because I always look at, I'm a sports gambler, so it's funny the brackets for the guys come out, and a lot of time it'll be a 12 versus a 5, and the 12 seed's the favorite in Vegas. I know a lot of people look and they'd look at something like that, a 6 seed Iowa and a 3 seed, maybe TCU, and they'd think, okay, the 3 seed's the quote unquote favorite. I'd be curious to see what Vegas puts on that, or what they have the favorite. I wouldn't be shocked if Iowa was a 3-point underdog to a TCU, a 2-point. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
that's the good test of it is what Vegas thinks more than almost what the seedings are, if that makes any sense.
I do think that the line would be a bit closer than people think. I don't know what it would be. I don't know how they even start to make the lines for teams that haven't played each other. But I do think it would be closer than some people would expect. What I will say on the other end of it, if Iowa is a 6 seed, you do open up that 11 seed possibility of playing the first 4 game. And man, there's a couple of tough matchups possible there. I know Iowa State's in that conversation right now, a Virginia Tech team, both teams that Iowa's played. So I don't know if Iowa would potentially play one of those. But there could be some interesting first round matchups as well. But yeah, I think that if Iowa played a TCU or a Kentucky as well, I think that line would be a little bit closer than people expect it to be.
Absolutely. Kyle Huesmann joining us from the Hawkeye Report. A few more for you before we let you go. And you look at how they end this season, and they go home now for Wisconsin. And we've had some great environments at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Thoughts of a senior day at Carver Hawkeye Arena with a Lucy Olson and Sid and those seniors that have been through a lot. It's not that senior class of last year that we knew and loved and talked so much about, but this senior class as well has won a lot of basketball games at the University of Iowa, and Lucy in her entire career. A special day at Carver Hawkeye coming up, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not the Kate Martin, and it's not the Gabby Marshall, and it's not Caitlin Clark, and even like a Molly Davis or Sharon Goodman. Not to take anything away from this year's senior class. It's just that last year's senior class accomplished so much. And with the COVID year, Kate Martin and Gabby Marshall got an extra year for people to watch them, which certainly helped a little bit. But yeah, that group accomplished so much. But so is this year's group. I mean, Sita Fulter was a crucial part. We talked about it, what she did last year in the postseason, what she's done this year. Lucy Olson has made herself about as a fan favorite as you can in just 1 year at a university. Kylie Fierbach's probably going to be going through the senior day festivities. She could come back next year. We're not sure on what she's going to do. Could find out, later today when we talk with the seniors at media availability. But Sita Fulter, Kylie Fierbach, Lucy Olson, Addie O'Grady's another one that's going to be going through the senior day festivities. Someone that's had really kind of a breakout year in her senior year, which is good to see. So yeah, I mean, there's still a lot to celebrate. A lot of those players played big minutes and crucial minutes on those teams that made the Final Fours. And anytime you have a successful program, and I shouldn't even say a successful program, anytime you have seniors that have been around for a long time have the fan support of a school like Iowa. A senior day is always special, and Sunday will be no different.
One more for you, Kyle, before we let you go. You look at what life was like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and there were some natives that were restless and things weren't going the way they go and all that kind of stuff. They always say, man, if you don't like the way things are going in college basketball, you can wait a few weeks and there might be completely different. That's the way it's been at the University of Iowa. Those critics, those doubters have been silenced. What's it like now on the beat covering things? I know the Hawkeye Report has the pulse of the fans. It's amazing how quickly those naysayers can go away, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have gone from criticizing Jan to crediting Jan, and I think there's been a lot of credit that's gone to some of the players as well. Like, we talked about Sida Fulter and Lucy Olson. We're inconsistent in kind of the middle of the season, and they've really stepped up as of late, and they're a big reason why Iowa's where they are now. But I'll go on record and say that during that losing streak, when they lost to Oregon and had to go, that was a really tough spot, by the way. You lose to Oregon, you're on a 5-game losing streak. You don't get to come home. You have to go quick turnaround, go up to Washington, a Washington that at the time was playing pretty well. That was a tough spot to be in. I picked Washington to win that game. And I said on the podcast with Tom, I said, I don't think I was going to make the NCAA tournament. Because at the time, you looked at the road schedule that was left. They had to play at Washington. They had to play at Minnesota. They still had to play at Nebraska. They still had to play at Michigan. And you throw in Ohio State and UCLA. It was just such a tough schedule down the stretch. And you start to say, okay, looking at Iowa's record, what do they have to do to get into the NCAA tournament conversation again? It felt like, the way that those opponents were playing at the time, it was a really tough road. But heck, there goes Iowa on a 6-game winning streak, won a whole bunch of games on the road, got a crazy win over USC that obviously at that time I was not. I said at the time, I said, hey, if they go beat a USC or a UCLA or an Ohio State, that would change things dramatically. But at the time, the way they were playing, didn't think that was going to happen. So credit to Jan, her whole coaching staff, the players. They proved a lot of people, including me. They proved me wrong. And they've done a fantastic job to go on that 6-game winning streak, to get the win over USC, to get some of those road wins, to this Michigan game. Coming off 2 heartbreaking losses to Ohio State and UCLA, and say, hey, those games are done. We got to go get a big road win on the road against Michigan, and they went and did it. The difference from it's February 27th, a little over a month ago in the middle of that losing streak, it's just a complete 180. And credit to, like I said, credit to the coaches and to the players for making that turnaround. Because I don't think every team would have been able to do that. But they've certainly done a fantastic job. They've now won 7 of their last 9 games. And we went from talking about can they make the NCAA tournament to can they get a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. It's been pretty dramatic.
Kyle, it's okay. You're wrong for the first time. It happens to the best of us. Kakert's still never been wrong. It's okay. You got wrong once in a while. It'll happen. I appreciate you doing this. Like I tell everybody, I mentioned it to Chad. You guys do a great job on the beat. Kyle's fantastic. I say he's the Tom Kakert of the beat, but he's not ugly. He's a good looking guy. So that's the beauty part is you got the knowledge of a Tom Kakert, but you don't have to look at Tommy's face. So that's a win-win for everybody. I appreciate it. Tell people how they can check out your stuff, not just at the Hawkeye Report, but also on social media and all those good stuff as well.
Yeah, at Huesmann Kyle on Twitter, which is HUESMANN, and then Kyle KYLE. That's on Twitter. And then obviously the Hawkeye Report site. Yeah, women's basketball. Getting into postseason, there's going to be plenty of talk about that. And then baseball season's going now. Yeah. Plenty of stuff going on out there with the series against Washington State starting. They did a good job going 2-1 last week down at Stetson. So for me, I've got baseball and women's basketball coverage. Obviously, Tom's got men's basketball and whatever football stuff's going on. And Tanner does a fantastic job with wrestling. Wrestling obviously just had that big win over Oklahoma State at home the other day. So we've got that overlap right now of 4 sports going on. So there's a lot to read and a lot to talk about right now.
Yeah, it's where you need to go. They all do a great job doing it. And we appreciate you helping me out. Tommy's on here. You're on here. Got to get Tanner on here. He does a great job as well. So that's maybe next week we'll get Tanner on here. So Kyle, we appreciate you. Be good. Don't work too hard. Don't carry Tommy too much. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that is Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report. We're just getting warmed up here on a Thursday on Off the Air. Coming up, a couple great segments coming up. One, we're going to talk to the Maquoketa girls head basketball coach, Chad Specht. He just got done leading the Maquoketa girls to their first state appearance ever. So we got him coming up, and also our good friend Tyson Blaser, the catching coordinator out for the Boston Red Sox. And speaking of Iowa baseball, former Iowa baseball great, former Rockridge great as well. So a lot more to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Thursday. We'll be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Thursday here in the Quad Cities. It is all about March Madness right now, basketball season and the postseason in full swing. But before you know it, you'll blink your eye and baseball season will be here. And we're going to start talking about that. My guest right now is the catching coordinator for the Boston Red Sox, former Rockridge standout, all in all good guy, former hitting coach for Charlie Randazzo. I think that's probably on the resume somewhere as well. So Tyson Blaser joins us now. Tyson, always good to see you. How you been, my friend?
I've been awesome. Yeah, Charlie, right at the top. That probably tops the list for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, something like that. Hey, you are the catching coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. So you're at spring training right now. Before we talk about what a catching coordinator means and all that kind of stuff, where are you at right now? Where's the Red Sox spring training? And you're probably going to tell me that the weather's gorgeous and beautiful and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, terrible weather right now. Had some bad storms the other night, but yeah, I'm in Fort Myers right now. I'm left the facility about a half an hour ago, and I'm back at the rental property here, and I'm just kind of settling back in after a long day.
You talk about spring training. What's it like to get down there, get back out there? I know you're a baseball guy. I know you're a good athlete all the way around, but I know you're a baseball guy. You got to love getting back out there. What's spring training like each and every year for not just yourself, but for all these guys that get down there and get rolling?
Man, I love it. Obviously, getting out of the winter's nice, but, every day I get to go outside and my office is, lush green grass and a beautiful sky. Like it doesn't get better than that. So, yeah, and, for these guys, it's something new every year. I went through it as a player and a little bit different now as a coach, but it's a new season for these guys. They're one step closer. Some are fighting for their careers. Some are trying to make the big leagues, and you've got everything in between. And it's just it's a special place to be every year, and I absolutely love what I do and love being down here.
Is that what makes it kind of cool, is that everybody's journey is different. So you're probably looking around today and you can look at different players, and you just mentioned one guy might be trying to make it to the bigs. One guy might be just trying to hang on. One guy might be in the bigs and ready to rock. Is that what's kind of cool as you look around and you see that everybody's journey is different, especially when it comes to Major League Baseball?
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about it is I was always a guy fighting for a job, and you see some guys that know that they're going to be AAA or going to be on that big league roster. But I think that's what is special about baseball is that, a few things fall your way and you could be one of the very few people, right? Just over 20,000 players have ever played in the big leagues. And at the end of the day, that is the ultimate goal. And it's really not that far removed when you get to this spot down here.
So you're the catching coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. People hear that and they think, okay, you coordinate catching. What goes on? What's your job? What does Tyson Blaser do for the Boston Red Sox organization?
Yeah, it's kind of a fancy term that I like to put it into just kind of terms that everybody probably knows is essentially I'm a project manager, right? Like I make sure that the finished product is what we want it to be, and how we get there is making sure everyone stays on task. Put a process in place. I educate our players, I educate our coaches on what we do, how we go about it, and then make sure that they're carrying out those duties every single day. And so a lot of my interactions will be with them on, how to troubleshoot something for a player, making sure our training processes are put in place and our environments are good, and then get to interact with the players when I come through town and keep tabs on them and make sure that they're progressing the way they need to be. Because at the end of the day, if they're not progressing, our coaches aren't getting done what they need to do. That is what falls on me. So just making sure that it runs smoothly, and being able to do a lot of different things within that, which I love about the job is I get to be in the dugout and with the players and get in the dirt and roll around with them and, be able to teach at a one-on-one level, but then, get to step off and I get stimulated on the off the field stuff with looking at numbers and computer models and all of that too. So I get to do it all, which is probably the best part about the job.
You look at it, and I think people think Boston Red Sox, that you're just hanging out in Boston doing that kind of stuff. Talk about the organization, because it's not I'm coordinating the catching situation for the big league team. It's from top to bottom, which means you do some traveling, obviously, but there's different levels and I guess different stages of where each catcher is at each level. And that's got to be something you enjoy as well.
Oh, yeah. So you oversee the big leagues from Boston all the way down to the Dominican Republic Academy. So we have kids that have signed a contract at 16 years old in the Dominican Republic to, 3-4 year big leaguers right now in Connor Wong up in the major leagues. And so there's a vast array of talent. There's a vast array of levels of where they are within that talent. And then kind of getting to see those guys progress through. And just recently we traded for Carlos Narvaez coming from the New York Yankees. And I had him coming out of rookie ball with the Yankees when he was 17 years old. And now we get to see him battling for the second spot in the big leagues with the Boston Red Sox. And it's kind of a come full circle moment. And those are the special parts of it. But yeah, I've got to be at a lot of different places throughout the year, anywhere from, Portland, Maine, where our AA is, and Worcester, where our AAA is, like I said, all the way down to Fort Myers in the Dominican Republic.
Man, it sounds like a ton of fun. Talk about catching, because anybody who doesn't know, great catcher at Rockridge, catcher at the University of Iowa with the Hawkeyes, and then a catcher throughout the minor league system. I don't want to misspeak. You got to AAA, didn't you?
Yeah, I like to claim AA. I had a little bit of time in AAA, but spent majority of my time catching in AA with the Yankees, and kind of turned nothing into something. Got signed as a free agent, kind of as a fifth year coming out of Iowa late in the process. Couple injuries, and I find myself playing and do okay and hang around, and I guess you call it a career. I was able to go 4 seasons, 5 spring trainings before, they told me I needed to hang them up. But yeah.
But what is it about catching? Because that's all I've known you as. I remember you at Rockridge. I remember at Iowa, and now you're and then in the minor leagues, but now you're teaching it at a high level. What is it about that position in this sport that catches Tyler Blaser's interest and love, and something you've turned a career into?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so the catching position has always been something that I love. It's like everybody on that baseball field is looking at home plate, and I love that about the position, is that you have to have great just awareness. You have to understand what's going on. You have to be able to be pretty stoic and have this air of confidence when people are looking at you, and that you have everything together when on the inside you don't. But I love that. And as a catcher, you look out at the field, we have to know where everyone's going. We have to know what that pitcher is going to be throwing, but we need to know where the first baseman is going to be, and on the ball in the gap, where our shortstop needs to be and who's backing up what base, and you're the field general. And so that part of it has always been something that I've really, really enjoyed. And so I guess that's kind of where that love had started. And then in terms of getting to where I'm at right now, just kind of, I guess a benefit of some circumstance where when I had just was getting out of catching in the minor leagues, the catching position was starting to change. And I was privy to a little bit of that. And then when I was released, it actually allowed me to go into the private sector and try a lot of these new things out. What is one knee? What are we doing? Why are we moving the ball so much? This is a crazy drill. Let's give this a shot. And then you start to be able to try these things and talk to people about them. So to be honest with you, getting out of pro ball allowed me to grow more as a coach, because I was able to kind of broaden my horizons and think outside the box. And so you couple that with the love of catching, it just kind of was a perfect storm that led me back into it and then to where I am now.
Yeah, no, it's been a great ride. It's been a great journey to watch you on, and something that I know you enjoy doing. I got to ask you about a few big league things. First off, you go from the Yankees to the Red Sox. That's like going from Rockridge and transferring to Sherrard. You understand that? Like, what was that like to make a switch from one storied franchise to the other storied franchise, and they hate each other? What was that like? Did you have to get rid of all your Yankee swag and switch it out, or talk to me about that?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely did. I still get crap, people, like a Yankee guy, no, but yeah, no. Pretty soon after I got the Red Sox job, my wife packed up all of my Yankee stuff and sold it on Facebook Marketplace. So if you bought some Yankee stuff on Facebook Marketplace,
you're welcome.
Probably some of my stuff, but yeah, I mean, it was. It is a crazy kind of move from the Red Sox to the Yankees, and you've got the documentary out about the comeback now, and it was a different light watching it this time around. But yeah, it is a real thing. The Yankees Red Sox is a real thing, and there is a respect there, but there is some bad blood there. But really, at the end of the day, it was like I'd been doing it for quite a few years with the Yankees, and it was just gone a lot. And my wife was just like, you're getting run down, you're getting worn down. Like, I think it's time you bet on yourself and try to find something new. And she was right. Imagine that. Like your wife usually is right. And I landed with the Red Sox, and it's been amazing.
I can relate. My wife had the same conversation with me about 6 months ago, and I bet on myself and tried to do something better for the family. So can definitely relate with that. Tyson Blaser joining right now on Off the Air. When it comes to my kids have been watching spring training baseball. They love it, and they can't wait for it to get rolling. That ABS system has everybody confused and intrigued, and my seventh grader loves it. I don't think Charlie does, but talk about what the ABS system is for anybody who doesn't know what it is, and you think it's something that could make its way to the big leagues relatively soon.
Yeah, I do. I think it will probably be there next year, where it's probably the year after, depending how the testing goes in Major League Spring. But to be honest with you, they've been testing it the last 2 years in AAA. And so, they've got it's called the Hawkeye system, if you're familiar with tennis at all, and they challenge a call and it zooms in and you can see if that ball was long or in or out. It's essentially what it is. And what it does is every hitter is measured so that the strike zone will actually change based off of the height of the hitter.
Oh, wow.
And then when the ball is thrown, because it is not stagnant, that the zone does move. But when the ball is thrown, if the umpire calls it a ball, and as a pitcher or catcher, you think it's a strike, you can go ahead and tap your head and we'll challenge it. And it goes straight to the big screen, the jumbo screen out in center field, which it's kind of fun to watch, to be honest with you, because everybody stops and they look at it and they'll show you if it's a ball or strike. And if you get the call right, you save your challenge. And if you don't, you lose your challenge. And to be honest with you, it seemed like it was tracking toward a full ABS where they were just going to call balls and strikes with the machine back there, and the umpire wasn't going to do a lot. And so, to be honest, I think this is probably the middle ground there. As a catching guy, I would love not to have it at all, but I think this does add a little bit of excitement for the game. It still keeps catching relevant. Receiving the baseball is still going to be a skill that is desired by major league teams. And so, I can get on board with it.
It's funny because you talked about that and I'm an old school guy. I think of Glenn Cook, and we're going to talk about Glenn in a second, but I would think Glenn would, his mind's just blowing up with the thought process of this. And I think of some of my umpire buddies, the Don Umlins of the world and you mentioned as a catcher, some of the art of it is receiving, is framing, is all those kind of things. I can't imagine a catcher loves the thought process of a machine taking away some of what makes what you guys do special or an advantage, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Now, if you're a really bad catcher and you get to hit homers, you probably wanted an umpire back there not calling balls and strikes, because then you'll have a lot more value. But, as catchers, there is an art to what we do, and there's not many other places. No one's going to come into work and say you're bad at your job, let's just make it a whole lot easier for everybody else. It's I think that we can do a better job throughout the minor leagues of just educating the umpires on strike zones. And to be honest with you, when we saw it in AAA, the strike zones improved quite a bit, because they would go 3 games with full ABS. They were just calling balls and strikes based off the machine, and then they would do the challenge system. When we get to the challenge system, the strike zones with those umpires were a lot better. We have plenty of data right now that the strike zone in AAA the last couple of years has been tighter than the big leagues. The AA strike zone, where they don't have the ABS system calling it, is more like the strike zone in the big leagues. And so when you see this ABS kind of come in, you're going to see a slightly smaller strike zone, and I think a better product will come out of it.
No, I like it. When you look at the overall grand scheme of things when it comes to getting ready for baseball, I want to talk to you about the Quad Cities area, because obviously you're proud of what's going on here. You came out of here and did some good things, and there's prospects all over the place. And I always bring it back to, because I talk to a lot of youth parents, and youth baseball is everybody's parent, I think, thinks they're going to be the big leaguer that's going to go to the next level. Tyson, I've had 3 people that I've covered make it to the major leagues. Now, with that being said, in 25 years, that's a small number, but you just mentioned the amount of people that make it to the major leagues. It's a small number. But we have had, I covered Cody Sedlock and Dakota Backus and Jacob Junis are the 3 that from our area made it to that next level. Trenton Wallace is on the doorstep with the Toronto Blue Jays organization in AAA right now. But you see a lot of kids in our area making it to the college level, making it, getting drafted, getting opportunities at that next level in pro baseball. What are your thoughts on what we're doing here in the Quad Cities? I know you're involved with youth baseball. You have a youngster of your own. Just talk about baseball here in the Quad Cities and your thoughts as you think back to home and how baseball's kind of developed and moved along here in the Quad City area.
Yeah, I think that it's always been a hotbed. I think that sometimes we get overshadowed by Chicago. Sorry, Chicagoans, but they tend to, it's a bigger area. They have quite a bit of scouts up there. They get over scouted. But when you come down to this area, we have good baseball, right? We have good facilities that people work out at, and we do it at a high level. And I think also in our area that people are playing multiple sports, and they're athletes and continuing to be an athlete, I think is something that can't be understated. Whether it's playing multiple sports or whether it's doing some kind of sports training and staying as athletic as possible, because even at our level, the athletes continue to play. Like, the athletes rise to the top. And so the more athletic we can be, the better we're going to be. And then we have some really good athletes in our area, multi-sport athletes that come out and do big things. And so in our area, and being in the winter, we have to figure out ways to get it done. And we do. Guys go out and they hit in cages, and we throw all winter long. But I think it's a kind of just a Midwest mentality. We're hardworking, blue collar, and we get after it, and we find a way to get it done. And I think that just continues to play at every level.
Yeah, it's fun to watch a prospect from our area, a standout from our area, continue to do big things, and it continues to happen more and more often. And we use that goal of the major leagues as that ultimate goal, but it doesn't have to get to that. That's so hard to do. It's so hard to get to. So before I let you go, I want to talk to you about some more things closer to home. And you're a Rockridge grad. We had Glenn Cook on the show last week. Glenn called his last PA at Rockridge, Mr. Rockridge. I want to talk to you about Glenn in a second, but I joked with you before we got on air, but I mean this. I wish that I loved anything half as much as Glenn Cook loves you. The way he talked about you on the show was awesome. Talk about your relationship with that man, because it goes way back. He was your coach in high school, and I know you have the utmost respect for Glenn Cook and what he's done for you, and now a friend of yours, not just a coach, but a friend.
Yeah, I love that man. He is an absolute fantastic human being. Yes, he was my baseball coach at Rockridge. But I think he just kind of just taught me more about how to be a person and how to grow up and how to respect the game of baseball, how to be a good person. He means an awful lot to me, and I don't know how to even kind of put it into words and how to accurately describe it, sitting here talking with you. But all I know is that, Coach, if you're watching this, man, I love you. You're a great person, and you mean an absolute ton to me, and I'll give you a call here soon.
Yeah, well, think about this too, Tyson, because what you're saying is echoed by a lot of young people, and now not young people, because guess what, Tyson, you're not young anymore. But there's a lot of people over 50 some years at Rockridge that's been affected by that guy, not just as the coach, but as a human being. What does that say? That's got to say a lot, because it's not just Tyson Blaser who played baseball for him and did well for him and all those kind of things. It could be Tyson Blaser. It could be the guy that doesn't get a lot of run. They all seem to have a ton of respect for him coach-wise, but then Mr. Rockridge as well. That community loves him.
Yeah, man. He's hard on himself. He would say, I wasn't that good of a coach, and it's like, Coach Jake, you were the epitome of a good coach. We had this discussion the other day. It's like, there's experts in everything, right? We have plenty of experts up here in what we do. But the good coaches are the ones that can connect with people on a personal level. The ones that genuinely care for their players, and that the players see that and they respect that. The guy that goes out there and breaks his back mowing the yard every day out there at the baseball field and edging it and chalking it up, and then having the energy to go through practice and loving the game with just such a high standard. And then when he goes out there and he lives it, and he lives and dies with you on every play, but then is there after the game, it's just like, kids respect that, and kids buy into that. And then you have that trust of them. And that's when you get the most out of people. We had a Rockridge team that went to state that was not very talented. But, we loved each other. He loved us. And it's like, that's when special things happen. And that's what makes a special coach. And, he can sit there and tell us he's not the best baseball coach. He's not the best X's and O's guy. But you know what? He is a damn good person. And he loved us, and that brought out the best in us. And that's what he's done for countless people throughout his time at Rockridge. And that's why I think people have such high regard for him.
Absolutely. Tyson Blaser, catching coordinator for the Red Sox, joining us right now. A few more before I let you go. We mentioned Rockridge, Mr. Rockridge, Glenn Cook. I'm close to that area. I'm out here in South Milan is what we like to call it, but real close to Taylor Ridge. It's a special community, and you look at yourself and Liz Watkins and Ethan Happ and the Heaths and the White. You can go on and on. I'm going to miss some as we go on. Is there something in the water here in the last 15, 20 years that I need to get my kids drinking? Because it's been a special time, not just athletes, but people as well. What is it about this community that's just as special when it comes to where you were raised, where you came up through, and where you call home?
Yeah, well, I got to add one more to the list. The late Augie Karras was one of the best out there. So I want to make sure we add him to the list. But, I don't know because, we thought we had some good talent coming through. But, man, the last 10 to 15 years out there, the amount of talent that has gone through there is pretty amazing. No, I think we do things the right way. It's a small-knit community, and people generally care for each other. And, everybody knows each other's business. Sometimes – for not the best, but that's part of a small community. But everybody out there is generally rooting for each other and wants everybody to succeed. And they show out on Friday nights for football games and basketball games, and it's just something that makes you proud to go out there and do well for your community because they're going to celebrate you. And when you're celebrated, it makes you want to do well for your community. And I just even still now going back, it makes me smile walking into the gym or walking into the high school and, seeing some of the banners in the old gyms and the coaches. And it's just once you're, part of that community, you're always a part of that community.
Yeah. Well said. Last one for you. You're a baseball guy. Baseball guys have superstitions. You seem like an old school baseball guy. Do you have any superstitions, even to this day, when it comes to the game of baseball, or when you were a player, even?
Yeah, well, you say you're not superstitious. I think that's where you start. But then as soon as you win a game, you're not going to change the socks. You're going to wear the same thing. You're going to eat the same thing for breakfast. You're going to drive the same way to the field every single day. So, yeah, when things are going well, I stay on a same routine. And, if the guy performs well, it's we're doing that the next day. So, to say I have a set superstition, I'm nah, I'm not that superstitious, but then all of a sudden I find myself doing the same things when things are going well. So yeah.
No, absolutely. Have you had a interesting, what's the best conversation / argument / interaction that you've had with an umpire? I don't think people realize the communication that goes on. So high school, college, pros, do you have a fun story or a good story? Because you guys are what, 6 inches apart for 3 hours a day? I'm assuming you've had to had some good run-ins with an umpire now and then.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty easy going and easy mannered. So when I was catching, kept it pretty cordial. We would talk about where you're from, how everything's going. I always like to try to be friendly. I wasn't as friendly as a manager. I guess I was fairly high strung, and so. I think it was my first year managing in Hudson Valley, and I just had enough. Our guys had been getting the short end of the stick all night with some calls, and we were down a couple late, and there was a high strike, and I said, "Come on!" And I started walking toward home plate, and he's like, "Tyson, don't come down here. I'm going to have to throw you out." And I said, "Well, you better throw me out because here I come." And then there he goes. And and we got into it, and we ended up coming back and winning on a walk-off hit. So I guess one was worth it.
Did you get your money's worth? When he said that, did you at least get your money's worth before you had to go?
Yeah, I did. I did. Offline, I could show you some pictures of some. I like to talk with my hands. I get that from my father, and there was plenty of gesturing going on for sure.
Did you ever, if you didn't agree with a call with an umpire while you're a catcher, were there different ways to do it? Did you, and you don't want to stand them up, you don't want to show them up and all those kind of things. Where did you find the best way to maybe communicate during a game as a catcher with the umpire on things you like, things you don't like, calls you don't like, if you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I think it also caveat, it changes with levels, right? So when you're younger, you should just keep your mouth shut. When you're in high school, you can have some cordial conversations. In high school, we can start to put in some jabs here or there, and then you get into pro ball, it's a business relationship, and so sometimes we have to be a little bit tougher. But I always still tell our catchers to this day, you need to establish a relationship early. That is like, hey, where do you got that? Okay, hey, I thought it was there. And then as it keeps going on, like, hey, you stay with me, that's there. It's a strike. And then if it continues to go the wrong way, you can snip at him every once in a while just to let him know that, like, hey, that ball's there. We got to have it. So there's different levels and different layers of it. But I always start with establishing a baseline relationship, because at the end of the day, they're humans too. And so there's a human element to it. So using that guy's first name every single time you knew. So you have to make sure you remember that guy's name and introduce yourself every time. But play on the human element. You definitely got to play on the human element.
He is Tyson Blaser, former Rockridge standout, former Iowa standout, catching coordinator for the Boston Red Sox, and Charlie Randazzo's former hitting coach. I always tell the story. I think it was his 11U year. Maybe he's 15 now, but there was one year he hit the piss out of it. I mean, he had a really good year, and he had just started working with you, and all summer long, all I got was, Tyson's going to love this. Hey, Dad, text Tyson this. Let him know I did this. And I'm sitting here thinking, I put all the time in with this little guy throughout and then you come in and steal all my glory. I hated it, but I loved it. I appreciate you. I appreciate you do with young people. I appreciate what you do with the world of baseball, and I appreciate your friendship as well. Thanks for doing this. I know you're super busy, so we appreciate it. Best of luck, and we'll see you real soon back up here in the Quad Cities.
I appreciate it, Matt. This was fun.
All right. Tyson Blaser, catching coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. Baseball season is right around the corner as well. We still got plenty to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Thursday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8255. 81-97 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Thursday here in the Quad Cities. Such a great time of the year. You know, March is literally days away, but the February frenzy is just as fun, especially on the high school level. And we have 4 ladies teams from our area on the Iowa side of the river heading to Des Moines next week. One of them is the Maquoketa girls. We're joined by their head coach, Chad Specht, right now, and heading to state for the first time in school history. First off, Coach, thanks for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time.
You bet, Matt. Thanks. It is an exciting time for our girls.
Yeah, kind of talk about it. We'll get into the game itself and the moments and all that kind of stuff for a second, but Maquoketa is heading to state for the first time in school history. When you hear that, how proud are you of not just this program, but those young ladies in particular?
Extremely proud for them, of them, and that's not taking anything away from, historically we've had some really good players, really good teams, really good coaches that just have a lot of success in the past, just weren't able to get over that final hump. So I've heard from a lot of those players and coaches, and on top of that, pass that along to the girls, because it's one thing when you do it and it's exciting, but it's another thing knowing that the community, the support, the positivity around it that surrounds it, that just adds more to it.
Coach, I don't think you surprised anybody this year. There were some expectations. It was a good basketball team coming in. When did you realize, at what point in this whole journey or process, did you realize that this was a special group of young ladies that could do some historic things at Maquoketa High School?
Honestly, I thought that this group 2 years ago, we lost 3 seniors after last year's squad, but returned a good core. And just seeing that 2 years ago, they're a special group. There's just no doubt about it. And the way they're able to then come together and understand roles, and it's not just 5, 6, 7 girls; it's all 14, because it takes an army to get that team ready to go every single day. But you could see it really early on, the special bond, the special type of competitiveness that they had. It was there from the very beginning.
I had heard good things about what Maquoketa was doing last year, moving into this year. Remember last year, and I think what really set it off for me was when Central DeWitt had a fantastic year, and there's no love lost, or there's no lack of rivalry between the two teams, which is great. But when you beat a team like Central DeWitt that goes on to win the MAC, Coach, I think that gives everybody around the area, maybe around the state, like, these young ladies are really good. Getting that game, that signature victory, and then just throughout the season, when did you guys, I guess, when did the rest of the area know what maybe you guys already knew, that this was a pretty special group?
Yeah, no, we always talk about it within our group that we try not to focus on the external factors, everything that happens outside those walls that we spend our time with. We focus on just winning the day with our group. But let's be honest. I mean, it happens and it's natural. And I tell my girls, just, accept it as it is. Early on, right after Thanksgiving, we had a game against Clear Creek Amana out at Kirkwood College in that rivalry Saturday. And Clear Creek had been undefeated last year, defending state champs, Division I kid, the Lauer girl. So there was a lot riding on that game externally on our kids. And for us to get that win, I think helped solidify in their minds that, okay, all right, maybe we are on the right path. And then we just continued day by day. And of course, yes, the DeWitt game right before Christmas, with them being in the position they were in, undefeated, highly ranked. It just helped our kids and our girls move forward, after those two, I'd say, key points, without a doubt.
Take me to Tuesday night, because there it is. Like there's the game to go to state right in front of you, a good Marion team coming in. Talk about preparation for that game, or what do you tell the young ladies? Because that's what I love about high school sports. There's expectations, there's goals, all those things, and you get to that point in that moment where you can accomplish or maybe check off a really huge goal. What was Tuesday like for these young ladies? Not just the game itself, but heading up into the game that night.
Yeah. First and foremost, after our North Polk loss last year, the girls just had a chip on their shoulder. We just used it as fuel, as everything we accomplished last year for us to have to go 3 hours out of our way to try to get over that final hurdle. They just kind of that left a bad taste. So we worked all season with that end goal of being, in 4A girls basketball, your goal is to get a first round bye and then 2 home games. And to their credit, that's what that work provided. So Clinton, no, pushover there whatsoever. We remained focused and stayed true to the game plan against Clinton. And then, yes, of course, as that sub-state game rolls in, everything amplifies. And it's natural. Again, we talked to the girls about it. It's natural. Let it flow through. Enjoy the moment. But before we took the floor, it was just simply, no matter what happens tonight, ladies, the most important people in this gym right now are everybody in this locker room, and stay focused on that. And again, to their credit, they're so good about it. And I think that helps carry into those results.
Talk about the game itself then. Obviously, you mentioned Clinton the game before, but Marion, no pushover at all, a very good basketball team.
Yeah.
To see your ladies and your young ladies respond the way they did, and to do what they needed to do, and get the job done in a great environment, what it mean to you as a head coach watching from the sidelines, trying not to mess things up too much, I'm sure.
As if I haven't heard that enough. Don't screw this up, Coach. Don't screw this up. But it is Marion's very good team, and there's some history there too with Maquoketa and Marion, long history, real good rivalry there. But last year we beat Marion at Marion to get to that North Polk game, and a lot of those girls are on that squad coming back. So, we took the Clinton game with our girls as they've got nothing to lose. Be prepared for that. Marion, however, is coming in saying, okay, you got us last year at our place. We're going to get you at your place. So we kept that in the back of our mind, that they're not just going to lay over and give you this game, ladies. You have to go out and take it. You have to execute. You've got to stick together, trust one another. And at this point in the season, Matt, it gets to the point where I can X and O. I can design stuff as much as possible, but the kids are the ones that are going to make the plays. And man, did our kids make plays on Tuesday night.
Take me to those final moments. And obviously, a double-figure victory, I believe, and so it wasn't like a nail-biter too much towards the end. But when did you know it? When did you? And the smiles on the girls' faces have to say it all. They're jumping around, they're screaming. That's, I think, maybe one thing I miss the most about doing local TV is those moments on the courts with the young ladies, with the student athletes, and their celebration. Take me through Tuesday night, and how fun is it for you to step back and watch those ladies celebrate something that they've wanted for so long?
I think you've said 2 points right there. One, just the smiles on their faces up and down the roster. Just kind of an exultation of, yes, this is just a great feeling. The gym was packed with community support. Positivity was everywhere. That is just a fantastic feeling, and something those girls will remember for the rest of their lives. So part of why I do what I do is I just know, I think the tie-in with sports and life lessons are there. And this is one of those positive moments there. Yeah, there's a ton of heartache too, but those positive moments, you've got to enjoy it. As far as when it was going to happen, I'll tell you what, Matt, it never felt like a double-digit game. I mean, it always felt like we had to continue to not let any possession get past us, both on offense or defense. So to Marion's credit, they never laid over. They never just said, here, go ahead, game's over. They played to the final minute, and our kids stayed locked into it. So, it was a great feeling at the end there.
The community, and you mentioned the community. It's got to be crazy right now. I tried to track you down, and I know that you're probably be pulled in a million directions. That's such a great thing, and I do think that's a nice thing about the state of Iowa. You win on a Tuesday, you have a week because there is so many different things pulling you in so many different directions. How do you let the girls enjoy it? Because, yes, you got a little bit of time before next week, but I know you probably want to get to work and start moving ahead towards that, but you got to let them enjoy something like that. Talk about letting these girls enjoy something that's never been done at their high school, in their community, with their friends, their families, all those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it. Let them enjoy it. We didn't do anything yesterday. We exchanged messages on text. My real world life job took over, and I've got stuff I've got to get done in the real world. But yeah, it's a whirlwind the last 24 hours, logistics, getting things scheduled for the following week, start talking about game plans, start talking about practice plans. And we do that verbally, but physically we didn't do anything yesterday. They've got to get schoolwork squared away. They're very driven kids, Matt. So they're all wanting to know about classwork and how are they going to be able to, can I get back for my college class next week? Things like that. So life is part of it, but yes, they're hearing it from the community. They're hearing it on social media. And I just tell them, continue to enjoy this moment, remain positive, and just take it as a sign of the support that you're receiving from everybody.
Can you take me through some of these young ladies and the people that are the young ladies that did the work on the court? For the people in the Quad Cities or in this area that haven't seen Maquoketa girls basketball this year, who are some of the young ladies that make you guys run, make you guys tick, make you guys go each and every night?
And to be fair, I love to tell everybody it's all 14 kids. It's just how we present and how we work with each other every single day is it's 1 through 14. With that being said, obviously there's accolades and recognition for kids that show numbers. And we've got 2 All-Staters in Cora Wydell and Aubrey Kroyman that about 6 foot in height and can do different things on the floor. Cora can play in and out. She's just a phenomenal athlete, state track runner, sprinter. And then Aubrey's a great athlete too, and has just whittled her sports down to basketball. But her inside game is coming along very nicely. So we've got a really good 1-2 punch in those 2. Malin Cleaver's our go-to girl at the point. She has had some injuries. She's battled through some adversity, and this year was her first year where she just really took that next step. Those 3 kids were our first team all-conference girls. And when you go statistically, those are the 3 that I would game plan against when you're trying to defend. But with that being said, Kendall Coleman's a starter, deadly 3-point shooter. And then my favorite little nugget is Justice Armbruster, who she does so many things for us that don't get recognized. She cleans up so many things on the defensive end for us. Her motor never stops. It's going every single day of practice. And those 5 girls were all conference this year. So those are our starting 5. And then we bring Hadley Erg off the bench, who would start for any other team in the state. And she has started for us at times. And it doesn't really matter which 5 kids are on the floor. It's just a great group. And Hadley has been a huge part of that, probably our best rebounder. If the ball's on the floor, you're either going to see Justice or Hadley on the floor. Just a phenomenal athlete all around. And, they play well together. Those are all juniors. And then you mix in a freshman who's had to try to figure out how to play with them, and Arabella Wagner. And she's really come along nicely and given us some really great minutes too. And then we've got 2 seniors, Finley Starr and Gentry Johnson. And, Finley's a perimeter player. Gentry's more of a inside presence, but they've understood their role. They're phenomenal leaders for this squad. And, they bring everything they can from that senior standpoint.
You mentioned,
and then we've got, go ahead, Matt.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We've got another junior, Haley Veach, about a 6-foot girl, another great athlete, 3-sport athlete. We've got 2 sophomores, Kennedy Eggers, Aubrey Dostal, 3 sophomores, and Wrigley Wisco, that all have their support and their role in understanding what they do. And then another freshman, Malin's sister, Ivory Cleaver.
Yeah, and you look at it, Coach, I want to focus on this year, and I'm going to ask about state here in a second, but when you look at your roster and only 2 seniors and a lot of juniors that do a lot of good things, I don't want to put cart ahead of horse, but the beauty part about this whole thing is you maybe get to do this again next year. Not to put things too in the future, but it's really exciting when you look at your program and the younger girls in it that get to experience what they're experiencing now, know that the future is bright as well.
Yeah, it is, and you're absolutely right. I don't put that cart in front of the horse. Every season's different. Anything can happen. You never know what's going to happen in the next 10 months. Last year's group was just spectacular, being my first year, and for them to come in, and they had everybody returning from their previous year. but a new system, new philosophies, new beliefs. To their credit, they adjusted extremely well to that, laid the foundation. We lost those 3 seniors, and we come in this offseason just wondering how it's all going to piece together. And the same thing was said after last year, Matt. You got all those pieces coming back next year. They're all going to be juniors.
Yeah.
You just never know. You never know how it's going to come together. But right now, yes, it's a really good feeling. It's a really good thing. A lot of good things can happen from this. My philosophy is there's still just a lot of work to do. So
yeah. No, absolutely. And we'll talk about that work because yesterday Coach Getz joined us on the show, and they're going to state for the 4th straight year, and talked about a matchup in the quarterfinals against another team that's played at state a lot and knows about it. And you flip it to Maquoketa, and you got young ladies that just don't know what to expect yet. You play Tuesday at 5 against Dallas Center Grimes. How do you prepare these young ladies? And because you can only do so much X's and O's, how do you prepare them for the big stage, the attention, the media, all the kind of things that come along with the state tournament in Des Moines next week?
Yeah, I just had this conversation earlier this morning. DC Grimes is making their 5th straight state tournament appearance, and they're just outside the metro there in Des Moines. So they're going to walk in and say, okay, this is home. This is our gym. We're used to this. And our girls are going to have that supposed feeling of, oh my God, this gym is huge. This floor is huge. Look at all these seats. But we'll talk about it. You can't not talk about it, and we'll address it. And we're going to do the best we can to get them prepared for it. And again, to these kids' credit, they don't fall prey to that. They are ready when that ball goes up. They're ready to play. It doesn't matter where it's at or who it's against. They just have that innate instinct to compete and want to win. So we're going to rely heavy on that and continue to focus on that and bring the girls around to that and not try to worry about the aesthetics and the environment and everything. Soak it in, but we can't let that bother us. Coach,
a few fun questions for you. You look at this roster. You talked about the kids that are doing well. The whole team. Take me. Is there? It's got to have great chemistry. Any team that has success has to have great chemistry. I'm assuming they do as well. Is there a goofball? Is there a class count? Is there somebody that makes sure that things stay light when things might not always need to be light? Is there somebody that makes sure that if you did have hair, it would be great, Coach?
I hear the hair question every day, Matt, so that's not fair to ask.
I'm about ready. I'm about with you. I'm getting there with you, Coach. Don't worry.
Goofballs, I tell you what, we're loaded with them on this squad. There's too many to count, but first that comes to mind is Hadley Ehrig or Finley Starr. They keep things really, really light. It's serious at times, but they'll get something light in there to kind of keep it light. And Gentry Johnson, the other senior, both seniors do a great job of that, understanding maybe the brevity of it all and the focus that we need, but it also might need that light touch to say, hey, come on, man, let's just lighten up a little bit. So a lot of goofballs on that squad. Yeah.
I love it. Any superstitions, anything going forward, moving forward? Are you a superstitious guy? Are you a little stitious? How do you approach that when it comes to girls basketball and sports?
Yeah. I mean, the girls have their routines for sure. I call mine a routine. I don't know so much if it's a superstition, but I like to do the same thing every day on game day. Little things like if I'm getting dressed, it's always left sock first before right sock. So, but it's just, I think that helps with the mindset when you have a routine. I read a lot of books and just reading about a lot of the old superstars and players back in the day or coaches back in the day. Understanding what they had, it comes down to routine. That routine helps that comfortable mindset. And if you're a comfortable mindset, you're probably going to excel or expect to excel.
Absolutely. A couple more for Maquoketa head coach Chad Specht before I let you go. I talked with Coach Getz yesterday, and we talked about girls sports, girls basketball in general. And one of the things I've told a lot of people lately is that it's not like they just flip the switch and all of a sudden girls basketball was fun to watch and good. My opinion is it's been good for a long time. Recent years, Caitlin Clark, those kind of things, maybe shed a spotlight to an area that hasn't gotten enough spotlight in a long, long time. Talk to me about that, because I don't think anything's changed. I think people are just paying attention more. Obviously, over the last 20 years, the girls have gotten more athletic and those kind of things, and that happens in every sport. But talk about the sport of girls basketball, because I feel like it's always been really, really good, especially in this area. I just think more attention's being put to it right now, which is a good thing.
Agreed. And, the funny thing about it is that the union sent out a survey mid-season wanting all ADs and coaches to fill it out and to answer questions to address the low numbers in girls basketball this year, because they saw a sharp decline in rosters. We've seen, a lot of JV games get canceled, varsity teams with maybe 7, 8 girls. I know the Cedar Rapids Gazette ran a story. There was, I think, anywhere from 5 to 8 teams that didn't even field a varsity team this year in the state of Iowa. So to contrast that question, it was a decline this year in that. I think with Caitlin, that has sparked something specifically in the youth and the younger. I know with my basketball camp, I can't tell you how many number 22s, on T-shirts are being worn. So that's a good sign, and I think that'll help spark it. But I think the reality is people are excited about it because of Caitlin. People are excited now that she's put it on that stage, not only with Iowa basketball when she was there, but through the WNBA, and that carried into the Olympics this summer. And it's exciting. It's great. I don't think it's going to go away, but I think it's going to start with the youth and keeping those kids involved and excited about it, and then it'll continue to grow. The last thing I'll say on that is, in this day and age, kids have so many opportunities in the wintertime. It's not just maybe cheerleading or basketball for girls. There's bowling, there's trap shooting, there's there's swimming. There's so many more opportunities, and they're spread so thin that maybe it becomes a numbers game in general just because of that. That can be both a good and a bad thing, in my opinion.
No, and I agree. In a bigger picture of that, I grew up, and you probably grew up in the era where you played 2-3 sports. And nowadays, unfortunately, you see the specialization of sports where somebody's going to focus on one thing, and there's pros to it. I understand it, but there's also, you love to see, and in communities like Maquoketa, my son goes to Alleman. In smaller communities where the enrollment maybe isn't what it is at some of the bigger schools, you probably need more people to play as many sports as possible. So yeah, obviously a lot more opportunities for young people in general. Before I let you go, I know you have to focus on one game at a time. So I get to do this. We get to do this as the media, but you look at this bracket, and I said the same thing yesterday with Coach Getz. Man, it'd be fun to see like Davenport North and Pleasant Valley in a state championship game. That would be a lot of fun, especially for this side of the state that I think doesn't get a bad rap, but doesn't get the love that it deserves. Boy, there's a really good rivalry with that team down south from you guys, and the brackets do play out that way. I'm not putting cart ahead of horse, but you root for a team like Central DeWitt until you see them, and then also I'm sure you're not a MAC school, but you probably are pulling a little bit for the Pleasant Valleys, the Davenport North, the teams from our side of the state that I don't know if people realize the basketball over here is really good as well.
100% agree with all that. Basketball on this side of the state is very good, and sometimes we don't get our flowers or cookies, whatever you want to call it. We don't get the respect from the state's central standpoint, which we use that as fuel in Maquoketa. So yeah, I'm 100% rooting for those MAC schools. Keep in mind, I used to coach at that school just south of here, and a lot of those kids I know, had them through camp. I'm a big Lauren Walker fan. So we are rooting for them. From our standpoint, we would love to see North Polk again in that semifinal game, and then we would love to see DeWitt in a championship game. So if you want to start placing that brackets out, that's how Maquoketa would like to see it.
I like it. I'll start filling my March Madness bracket out. That's what I have mine as well. Hey, Coach, I appreciate you doing this. I know you're super busy, so to take 20, 25 minutes and talk to some goofball that started a podcast in his loft, it means a lot to me. I appreciate you. Good luck this week, or next week, I should say, and hopefully we talk again real soon, maybe about a state champion or two, if that sounds good to you.
Sounds great, man. Appreciate what you're doing. I love the coverage. This is just great for the community. Thanks for what you're doing.
I appreciate you, Coach. Best of luck coming up on Tuesday. That is Chad Specht, the head coach of the Maquoketa girls basketball team, heading to state for the first time in school history. We got a lot more to get to on Off the Air on a Thursday here in the Quad Cities. We'll be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Thursday here in the Quad Cities. Man, I say it a lot, but that commercial, I'm starving. I'm going to go down and have some food. Speaking of food, I just saw on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that Jimmy John's is coming out with toasted subs. There's like a beef and cheddar, a spicy Italian, and a bacon chicken ranch. A toasted sub from Jimmy John's. I guess it launches on Monday. I'll give it a try. I'll let you guys know. I'm a fan of the warm sandwiches, but then again, I don't know how they're going to do it. I'd much rather go to Hungry Hobo where I can watch them grill it and toss it on the bread and give me a fresh, good sandwich. But anyways, enough about food. I'm just really hungry, so it's almost time for me to go have some lunch. Want to thank everybody watching. Another thing that I noticed as we were doing the show, so tickets went on sale today for Iowa's game. I should say for the Indiana Fever game coming up in May, I believe, at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And they were sold out in 40 minutes. 40 minutes completely sold out. They're supposed to go on sale for the general public tomorrow. And I mean, that's just not going to happen. They're going to cancel that. Amazing stuff. And the same kind of theme with it. The team in Washington Mystics, moved their games on May 28th and September 7th to a bigger arena in Baltimore simply because Caitlin Clark and company are coming to town. So just remarkable. Absolutely amazing. I would assume there's going to be no pre-sale. Of course, now the bad thing is you look at the resale markets to go online and you're looking at some of these tickets going on for $600, $700, $800, $900, man. But anyways, just really, I mean, it's amazing what Caitlin Clark means to the state of Iowa, to the sport of basketball, that kind of stuff. It took 40 minutes. Surprised it took 40 minutes, to be honest with you, but it took 40 minutes for 15,000 plus to Pat Carver Hawkeye Arena. I think it's May 4th. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's May 4th. But anyways, if you're wondering if it's going to fit in your schedule, don't wonder because there's no tickets to be had. Really cool stuff with that as well. So Again, I want to thank everybody for watching. Kyle Huesmann in the first segment, speaking of Iowa women's basketball, fantastic as always, kind of breaking down Iowa's victory. And if you look at the Hawkeyes, they beat Wisconsin, which they should. They beat maybe a Penn State in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and then they beat a Michigan State or an Illinois team they only played once and lost 2 down in Champaign. They probably can get up to a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. And like Kyle and I talked about, you don't want to see the University of Iowa, that team, as a 6 seed in the second round of the NCAA tournament. So thanks again to Kyle Huesmann. If you missed that, go check that out. Always good to catch up with Tyson Blaser, former hitting coach for Charlie Randazzo. I think is the main thing you got to focus on with Tyson. No, awesome to talk to him about Rockridge baseball, Glenn Cook, baseball in general here in the Quad Cities, what he's doing now as the catching coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. Always great to catch up with my guy Tyson. So check that out as well. And really good times, cool times for Maquoketa. The Maquoketa girls going to state for the first time in school history. A loaded team. I think they're 21-2. A bunch of juniors that are really, really good. Some younger girls that play as well. So best of luck to them next week. We want to get through all these teams going to state. We talked to Jen Getz yesterday. If you missed that and you're a Pleasant Valley fan, go check that out. Got to Maquoketa today. Going to figure something out with Davenport North tomorrow. And maybe once again, Central DeWitt on Monday, something like that. Or vice versa. Anyways, we'll figure it all out as we go. That's the beauty part of this thing. I don't have to talk to producers about what we should do because it would be a conversation with myself, which would be weird. So we will figure out some more fun tomorrow. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to look ahead to a lot of the high school basketball tomorrow night. A huge night, Rocky Moline for regional championship, Rockridge and Macomb after last year with Macomb beating them, Sherrard and Orion, local rivals. They'll go head-to-head down in Mercer County for regional championship. So we'll set the stage for those big games for you. Also, if you're a dork like myself and you like WWE and professional wrestling, Elimination Chamber is Saturday. It should be amazing and outstanding. My good friend Don Umland will be back in studio in the house to talk about and preview Elimination Chamber. So if you're a wrestling dork, make sure you mark your calendar for that. We'll have much more as well. One more show to get to this week on Off the Air. If you've missed our shows this week, we talked about today on Monday, Pat Anger, Jordan Delp, Bettendorf Wrestling State Champions TJ Kester and Jake Knight, and also Don Umland on that show as well. On Tuesday, it was Tom and Ked talking all about Iowa and Illinois, and Ty Taylor setting us up for some really good basketball this week. Yesterday was Jim Madsen, Jen Getz, and Tom Johnston. So great shows to go back and check out. Packed full of good information and good stuff. Working on stuff for next week. I can tell you on Monday, it won't just be Pat Anger, always anger on Monday is what I like to say, but we're going to be joined by his partner in crime, the guy who carries him every Iowa radio broadcast. We're going to have Gary Dolphin on with Pat Anger. That's going to be a ton of fun. I might just turn my microphone off and let those two do what they do every Saturday during the fall for Iowa football. But really looking forward to that. Also chasing down Charles Jugasaw, hopefully for next week as well, and a lot more. So Ethan Happ, we're working on getting Ethan Happ on the show as well. So a lot of good ideas, a lot of fun things to get to. We really appreciate you guys watching. I think today on Twitter alone or X alone, we had 1,000 people watching live, which is really, really humbling and cool. So thank you guys for supporting what we're doing. Enjoy the day, enjoy your Thursday, enjoy the great weather, and we'll be back for one more show this week tomorrow right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazo. We'll see you guys tomorrow.